The White House is now working through logistics after the president accepted an invitation to meet with North Korea's leader Kim Jong Un. One senior State Department diplomat said that the peace house in the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea could be an option. Meanwhile, President Trump tweeted out this morning that he spoke at length about the meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping and that China, quotes, continues to be helpful and that the U.S. is working to solve the problem diplomatically. Chang is author of Nuclear Showdown, North Korea Takes on the World. He joins us now. So, Gordon, the White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders says that they want to see concrete and verifiable action. Can you really tell if the North Koreans are willing to denuclearize?
Well, you normally would think that they wouldn't, but we got to remember that sanctions are actually starting to bite the regime. We've heard that, for instance, Office Number 39, which is the Kim family slush fund, is running out of cash. That's according to Chinese sources. Also, the South Koreans say that they think that North Korea will run out of foreign exchange reserves by October. That's consistent with a lot of other information we have. So I'm sure that Kim wants sanctions relief. Now, we're not where we need to be. Where we need to be is where Kim Jong Un understands that he has no choice but to disarm. And we won't be at that point until we see senior regime figures like generals defect. But we're getting there. 6 months, 9 months, a year. I think we're going to be at a very good place with North Korea.
Former National Security Council Director for Asia, Victor Cha, writes that while the unpredictability of a meeting between these two unconventional leaders provides unique opportunities to end the decades-old conflict, its failure could also push the two countries to the brink of war. Do you think that ultimately the risks outweigh the benefits?
Yes, I think we have to test the North Koreans. As we heard from Chung Yi-young, the head of the South Korean national security apparatus, Kim Jong Un is committed to denuclearization. So that's something that we have to pursue. But we also got to remember that the North Korean playbook is you have a bold overture, a demand for concessions, and if the concessions are not given, then there's often provocations. So, yes, we've got to be mindful of this, but that can't stop us from talking to the North Koreans at a time when there is a possibility of a good outcome.
When you hear President Trump's words, we know he's railed against the cost of defending allies abroad, which has led some to consider that perhaps the president might be willing to actually consider pulling out American troops from South Korea if it came up to in negotiations. Do you think that that would actually be part of North Korea's endgame?
Oh, of course. North Korea for 70 years has had a goal, that is to take over South Korea. They can't do that while U.S. troops are on the peninsula. So they've always wanted us to leave and take our 28,500 troops off. So we just have to assume that everything they say and do has that goal in mind. But, obviously we're not going to do it. The South Korean public doesn't want it. I don't know what President Moon Jae-in thinks. He doesn't like us. He likes the Chinese and the North Koreans better than us. But fortunately for South Korea, most people in his country want the U.S. there. So we'll stay.
If you hear what China is saying, they are reportedly welcoming this development. They've had influence in North Korea. The president's asked him to apply pressure on the North Koreans. But let's say the U.S. were successful in these opening talks with the North. Do you think that Beijing could potentially lose some of its power and the U.S. move in here?
Oh, sure. Beijing has had power because we have viewed them as the route to a solution on the Korean Peninsula. And so during the six-party talks, for instance, which began in 2003, they were at the center of discussions, and we looked to Beijing to broker a solution. That gave China extraordinary influence, not only on North Korea, but on a whole range of issues as we made concessions to them in order to obtain their cooperation on the Kim regime. Talking directly with North Korea divests them of that role and so therefore of that power and influence. And during the six-party talks, they often were an unhelpful influence. So I think this is a very good development, talking to the North Koreans directly.
Gordon Chang, thank you for joining us, Gordon.
Thank you, Rena.